What's up, everyone? Larry here. I am simply a comedy fan chatting with and interviewing comedians, and this is Life's a Bit with Larry Mullins. Today's guest hails all the way from Wales in the United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the hilarious Kyle Davies.
Hi, Larry. All right.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks again for doing this.
That's okay, no worries.
I'm so happy because I never thought I'd be talking to someone in another country.
Yeah, and you've come to the best country, Wales.
I've always wanted to come there. A good friend of mine moved to Birmingham, and he's been living there for almost 5 years now.
Yeah, that's where my wife's from. My
Really?
Wife's Birmingham native.
That's cool. Like I'm just fascinated with the UK. I'll get there one day. I'm pretty sure it's kind of hard with the pandemic and everything. To talk going into comedy and stuff. Like I've always loved and been a fan of like watching stand up and listening to it. But like when this pandemic hit, like I like dove head first. Into, because who wouldn't like to laugh? I mean, it's the perfect medicine, and I've been literally spending this entire pandemic doing this and discovering comics of like literally every level that I've never heard of and falling in love with them, and that's what I love about it. It's like discovering new bands.
Yeah, there's a UK company called Next Up, and it's like Netflix for comedy. So they have
they
have a load of sort of specials on there, and they have partnered with the major festivals over here which couldn't take place.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, Leicester Comedy Festival was all online, and sort of Next Up facilitated the technology bit.
Yeah,
which was brilliant. You know, you could just go in and watch comedians. If you had an Next Up subscription, you got in for free for some of them, but you could donate, which is important as well, because I'm quite lucky. Comedy's like my second job.
That's awesome.
Whereas I know comedians, who struggled the last year financially. It's
and plus, I wanted to ask because I have no idea what the comedy scene is like in the UK, like where you are in Wales. But I mean, at least are there a lot of the Zoom shows, like the virtual shows, or you can you can still do it that way, right, over there, even with the lockdown?
Yeah. Zoom shows have really flourished over the last year, which has been really good. I've got to gig in America, Israel, anywhere. It's, as long as, like I did one gig in America, which was 3:00 in the morning over here. And I don't think my funny is turned on at that time of the morning.
And it's funny because when it's just the whole Instagram multiple accounts. I like to, I have my personal one and I have the one for this that I like to message comics from, and I use my personal one to promote that and other stuff. But when you followed the other one, I was like, because I always research people just because I'm curious, and it never dawned on me that you were in the UK. It just never did. And when we were setting up a time, you're like, "Oh, it'll be 5:30." I was like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Where? How are you 5 hours ahead of me? Like, where are you?"
I'm in the future.
Yeah, like no, I never even thought. It just never dawned on me. I never even thought of it.
That's a good thing, isn't it? That's how comedy is universal. What's funny somewhere is funny everywhere.
Yeah, and I the cool thing about Zoom too is, like you said, you were able to do gigs in America, Israel. That's the perfect thing about Zoom. Like, yeah, I'm in this little state called Virginia in the United States, but I can talk to someone in California. I can talk to someone in the UK. Just click a link and that's it.
And you could get to the UK quicker than you could get to the West Coast. It's so Virginia is where the Appalachian Mountains and is it there? Oh, my geography's awful.
Yeah, so is mine. I'm half slow, but okay, you've heard, obviously you've heard of Washington D.C. Yeah. I'm about half an hour south of that.
All right.
Yeah, so it's not it's like D.C., Maryland, Virginia. It's like in like a little triangle. So
so you really could get here quicker than the West Coast.
Was it just like literally just a few hours flight?
What would it be? 6 hours?
Yeah, that's not bad actually. That's not bad.
Yeah, because we go to Florida as often as we can. I love theme parks. So
so do I.
Yeah, we hit Orlando quite a few times, and we've changed in Newark and Boston, but now we just get the direct flight. It's that run through the airport that
Yeah, I love direct flights so much better. So like now I wanted to ask you, like, that's awesome that you're able to do the Zoom shows, because the very first comedy show I attended or bought tickets for once it started was a Zoom one, and it was kind of weird at first, and the host was like, all right, everybody, go ahead and start unmuting yourself, because these comedians have to hear the laughter. Like, that's the whole point of it. A lot of people, like, I guess, were embarrassed. I don't know, they didn't want to unmute themselves, and so I was the brave soul that unmuted myself first. And and I'm like, I don't care, even if it's virtually over a computer screen, they want to hear your laughter.
Oh, 100%. I've done gigs where there's nothing, and I do mainly one-liners, sort of pun-based stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't get anything coming back, my pacing got all out of whack, because you don't know how much to leave, or you end up tripping over the previous punchline.
Yeah, like it messes up your rhythm completely.
100%. But I've also been in Zoom gigs where, people Zoom bombed in and just shouted insults and then left.
Really?
Which was quite fun. Apparently, it's a regular thing. People just guess at links, and then go in there. The one I was in, they sounded like they were 12 or 13.
Of course, they were little teenies.
but swore like an adult. I'll be honest. Some of the stuff that came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to have the laughter feedback, because, like you said, the way I think the best Zoom gigs have been set up is, this is a comedy club. You behave like you do in a comedy club.
Exactly.
You get to laugh. Heckling's gone by the wayside, I think, a bit now with comedy.
Yeah, no one's gonna heckle on Zoom. I've heard of some things happening, but I mean, I would definitely say I would have to say heckling is definitely extremely limited on Zoom.
Yeah, the yellow square comes up, so they know it was you who shouted it.
Yep.
And they can see a picture, so it's like.
Yeah, all I did when I went to the one Zoom show, all I did was laugh. That's literally all I did. And at the very end, I was just like, "Thank you." Like, that's it. That's all I said.
Yeah, I've been to sort of live comedy stuff where hecklers have ruined it,
Yeah.
One was a comedian who's sort of kind of a storyteller, and he got to the last 5 minutes that were drawing all the themes together.
Yeah.
And someone just shouted out, and it sort of broke the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
And it was like really disappointing. But with Zoom, you get to kick them out. Virtual bouncers now could just go, no, you're not behaving, out
can
you go.
just click a button and they're gone.
Yeah,
that's extremely powerful.
It is the power. I believe that's what Snap was singing about. Was they were sort of all knowing that in the future you could press a button and kick someone out of a gig.
Yeah.
But it's
continue. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say about Zoom is, you've had a number of comedians set up their own nights as well. It's sort of, I co-host one on a Thursday night called Frenzy. And me and another comedian, Mark Rivlin, have recently started a podcast on puns, because we're both pun comedians, and we've done our first show as well, our first sort of live show. So we've invited one-liner comedians on, and last Saturday we put on a show. So that is so much easier. It's not like you have to go and find a venue.
Yeah,
especially in a bar, it's
like I've actually thought about doing that, trying to set one up. I definitely can see it. It has to be incredibly easier than actually setting one up at a venue.
Well, yeah, if you go to a pub and they're like, well, you need this many people to come, otherwise you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Whereas with Zoom, it's like, we'll just send the link out and whoever turns up, turns up.
And I've heard it's like that here in some places too, like when clubs were open inside, like you gotta, what do you call them, like bringers, where you have to bring like a certain amount of people before they'll let you get on stage. So and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, in the US, you have cover charges as well, don't you? So you got to buy so many drinks.
There sometimes, depending on where you go, they might say, say the ticket is this much to get in, and if you you sit down and watch the show, but if you're going to order a drink or food, there's like a minimum.
Right.
There might be a minimum. Like, you pay the ticket to get in and sit down and watch it, but if you want to order something, there's normally a minimum, depending on where you go.
That's cool, yeah.
So I wanted to ask, like, even before, like, the pandemic, are there decent places that you can do comedy shows at, or that you've been able to perform at before all of this stuff happened?
Yeah. I was only a year into my stand-up. When sort of the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, South Wales got quite a good, vibrant comedy scene. We've got a lot of cities like Swansea, near where I live. Then there's Cardiff, the capital.
Cardiff?
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, so there's really... there's specialized clubs, so, specialized venues for comedy. And then there's pubs who put it on, and everywhere in between. There's open mic nights, there's new material nights, which are good. You get to go and try your stuff out. And that's one of the nights I sort of co-host on Zoom, is a new material night. Because I think it's important that people get to practice that without, it being your main set. Because I've died many a time doing new material.
I've heard several of the comics I've talked to. I've heard a lot of them say that. I think that's awesome that you do a special show just for like comics to come in and just try stuff out. Judgment-free zone here. Just go ahead and try what you got to try. And
there's a club in Cardiff called the Glee Club.
The Glee Club?
Yeah. Who... it's a chain. So there's there's a few of them in the UK. And they often have... work in progress nights.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't know. You'll just turn up and a top line comedian will just practice their new show on you.
Now, with I wanted to ask you, with Zoom shows, like when you're setting one up, do you have to Like, I know normally you can't theoretically make anyone pay. You could probably work out something to where, pay this amount and we'll provide you the link, or generate a link, or maybe like to ask for donations. Like, how exactly do you do it?
The ones I've done are all free. But there are ticketing companies who have partnered up with comedy and comedians and comedy nights.
Yeah.
With the pun one, we asked for a donation, and that just, it doesn't even cover paying for Zoom and doing all the work to put it on, because, you approach it as you would an offline show.
Yeah.
So, there's the creating of the posters and
promotional stuff and all that.
Yeah, and just on the day of the gig, checking all the tech is working. With the pun one, we sort of run visuals through OBS, the piece of software.
Yeah.
We run it off that into Zoom, and then spotlight the screen at certain points to get the graphics on and things. So we do ask for a donation, and the first one had a few donations, which was cool.
With the donation thing, like the Zoom show I went to, the headliner sounds so weird for a Zoom show, but like the main comic, I just sent him some money through PayPal, and I was just like, thanks for making me laugh. I know you didn't make anything on this.
Yeah, and that's kind of with our pun night. We said, look, we can't pay, but afterwards, all the acts got sent their set as part in like a video package. So we had like an opening, their set, then graphics of where people can find them online, by way of a payment in effect.
Yeah.
But it's sort of an in-kind, I sat down on the Sunday, cut them all together, and then sent them through. I'm not sure. Oh, sorry, Alexa, for some reason, turned on then. I've got an Alexa joke in my set.
Alexa made a guest appearance.
Yeah, and if I forget to put my Alexa on like mute, no microphone, many a time she's gone, yes, as if it's part of the joke, and it's not. I have to remember now. Start my stopwatch on my watch.
Yeah.
Turn Alexa off, and make sure the microphone's on.
I wanted to ask you too about, like, you mentioned like your styles, like one-liners and puns, and I absolutely love one-liners and puns because they're kind of they're cheesy and corny, but in a good way. And I feel like, and like, I'm not a comedian, but I love comedy, and from talking to everyone and reading up on stuff, like, I feel like the consensus is that, like, doing something clean or a one-liner is like, that's difficult. Like, I've always like, how, because like every one-liner I've heard, I just love and I laugh at hysterically, and I'm like, man, like, I wish I could just come up with some funny one-liner. Like, I love one-liners. And I wanted to ask, like, how do you even, what's your process? Like, how do you even, you personally, how do you even come up with them?
Well, I didn't think I was going to be a one-liner comedian when I started. So I started by going to a comedy course that was run by a comedian in the UK, Noel James, who's done sort of Britain's Got Talent and got to the semi-finals. So I did that comedy course, and, part of my set were a couple of one-liners, but there was a few shaggy dog stories in there as well. And then over time, more and more one-liners come in. And, my process is probably the same now as it was then. If I hear a turn of phrase or something, it's like reverse engineering it. How can I make that the punchline?
So you said you hear if you use like a term or a phrase, and you just try to turn it into a one-liner?
Yeah, it was like me and my mother were talking about designer dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And she went, "Oh, I've seen someone with a cock-a-poodle."
Mm-hmm.
And I went to something along the lines of, well, the final joke that came out of it was, I've been investigating what designer dogs imitate roosters, and I know for a fact the cock-a-poodle do. Which is sort of near enough came fully formed as the joke.
And see, like, I mean, I giggled at that. Like, the process, I'm just like, how does that happen? Like, how? So you explained it like kind of like reverse engineering.
Yeah, I had said to my mother, cock-a-poodle do. And then it was like, right, how do I get all those? Because you can't just shoehorn things in. It has to be logical.
Because you kind of, you say it, cock-a-poodle do, but it's a cock-a-poodle do, and I'm like, I'm not quick enough to think that way. I'm just not. I'm really slow.
But I think it's switching. I think my brain now works differently than before. In that, even if I'm watching a comedy show and someone uses a turn of phrase, it's like, right, can I use that in a different punchline to how they used it?
Yeah.
And I'll go on the internet and do a random word generator, and a word will come up, and I'll try to come up with a pun for it. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I've still got a few longer jokes in my set. What I like about one-liners is if someone doesn't like a joke, they haven't got that long to wait till the next one.
Exactly.
So it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Something's going to stick at some point.
Yeah.
You're going to make that one person laugh at one point. And, I've had my sets being described as Christmas cracker jokes and stuff.
Christmas cracker jokes. That's hilarious.
As an insult. And it's like, no, I like that. Yeah, brilliant. Because Christmas cracker jokes appeal to everyone.
Yeah.
So, and that's their point.
And I like me personally, like the type of comedy I like. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love some dirty stuff, but I like a mix of everything. Inappropriate stuff, clean stuff. Stories and certain situations. Like, I just like joke after joke after joke. Like, that's what I like personally, because like you said, it doesn't, like, I guess give the audience enough time to recover. Like, they hear it, they laugh, and then you're already on to the next thing. It's like, you with like one-liners, like, it's super quick.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't like that one? It'll be literally a half a second until they hear the next one.
And the thing is, when you have, say, a 5-minute slot, some comedians will use that time for one joke. There may be mini jokes within the setup of that joke, mm-hmm. Whereas I can get through 30, 40 jokes in that 5-minute slot.
Yeah.
My problem is remembering them, because I got a terrible memory. But normally, once you tell one, it's like muscle memory.
Yeah.
All right, that leads on to that one. I
kind of like correlate it with, I would say it would probably kind of like, I have no idea how I memorize song lyrics. I have no clue. It's just repetition. Like, I imagine it's the same thing.
Yeah, I record my set and then just listen to it over and over again. And then listen to it, and 3 seconds before the next joke, I have to say what the next joke is.
Yeah.
to try and, because, I've read books by Darren Brown and they have memory sort of exercises in. But, excuse me. But yeah, I think growing up, one-liners were the things I loved. Like, I love the Marx Brothers. My dad introduced me to Night of the Opera when I was about 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And The Life of Brian.
I love Monty Python.
And it does seem a cliche for a Brit for me to love Monty Python. It's like, but it was, The Life of Brian was mind blowing because it was probably the first adult comedy I had seen.
Yeah.
And then you moved on to sort of like Blazing Saddles and other stuff. But my dad loves comedy films, so he got me into them. And it, like I said, it is the puns. Groucho Marx is my hero. When you watch him hosting You Bet Your Life, and someone says one thing, and it's like he is so quick to do it, to come with a comeback. And
the quick comebacks, like, it's amazing. Like, I wish I could be that fast. And like movies, like, I can already tell we like a lot of the same types of comedy movies. I like a lot of the slapstick, like Airplane, anything Mel Brooks, and I could probably even be canceled and shut down for saying Blazing Saddles is one of my favorite comedies of all time. But I mean, because it's literally so inappropriate, but it's so funny. It's so funny. But yeah, I love the slapstick stuff because that has a lot of the quick, like, I am serious and I am serious. Stop calling me Shirley. Like, stuff like that, like, I love it.
And there's, with vaudeville, you would get booed off if you weren't quick. Sort of,
really?
If you weren't entertaining, you were getting stuff thrown at you. And, so, the Marx Brothers sort of just got that we don't want anyone to boo us off, so we will just bombard you with jokes.
So when you would you prime most of your stuff is like pun jokes and one-liners. So for like your regular, I guess you would consider quote unquote regular jokes, like, do you just approach those the same way? And like when you do it like on Zoom, do you record it so you can listen to it back? And even like when you're live, like in person at a venue, do you do the same thing?
Yeah. I've got a record of, I think, nearly all my shows I've done. But yeah, it is listening back. But more importantly, it's listening to where the laughs are. So, I hate the sound of my own voice, but...
Me too.
And we both have podcasts.
Like it, someone will tell me like, oh, I love your voice. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know. Like I listen when I'm editing these, the only time I actually watch and listen to them is when I'm editing them, and that's it. And I don't listen to them again. Yeah. Because like, I don't like hearing myself. I just don't.
No. And that was the thing with Mark, when he first brought the idea of doing a pun podcast. It's like, no, I hate my voice. Last thing I want to do is edit sort of 40 minutes of me talking. And he kind of taught me round to it, and I'm okay with it now. I can sort of deal with it a bit better. But then, like I said, going back to old sets and then listening where the crowd laugh,
you can kind of figure out where you need to tweak it and make changes.
And where you just pause and, to allow the silence sometimes is a good thing. But with the longer jokes, there's a number of techniques. For example, the rule of three. So you sort of have an action, or you have repetition at least 3 times of something you need people to remember for the punchline.
Yeah.
So, there's that. And also, like, with a Shaggy Dog story, it's about getting as many jokes into that setup as you can. So then if people don't like the punchline, at least they've had some joy throughout it. And that's the point of jokes, isn't it? To make people feel better, I think. Yeah. It depends what comedian you are, actually. No.
Yeah, no. I mean, you tell a joke to make someone laugh. Like, the type of guy I am, like, people, those close to me, they tell me I'm really funny, but when I'm not trying to be. Like, I'm clumsy, and I'll just, I do, like, and it's not like I'm laughed at, not like in a bullied kind of way, kind of like I'm laughing at you and I'm laughing with you at the same time. Like, I'll do silly stuff, not even realizing it, and I'll get a laugh that way. And I respect anyone who does stand up, because, like, to me, just like music, like, that's an art form. Like, that takes practice. It has to take practice. Like, I wish I could do that,
Well, off stage, I am the most socially awkward person I know.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I'm such an introvert. And I always wanted to do stand-up comedy. But 9 years ago, I had a massive mental breakdown. And what came out of that eventually is the diagnosis of bipolar disorder, but also the ability to look back over my life and go, all right, at that point I was having a manic period, at that point I was depressed. And I had crippling shyness. And we have a comedian in the UK, Rod Gilbert, who's also Welsh, and he did a show, like a TV show, one-off documentary about his shyness and how, he's a comedian, but, and he took sort of 3 people who were shy and sort of taught them with another comedian how to do a stand-up set. Yeah. And then they did it at the end. And that was like, right, okay. That it was kind of permission to give it a go. And it was.
Piggybacking on that really quick before you continue, like almost every comic I've talked to, like, they're all shy and they're all introverted, and it's kind of like it's weird. Like, I'm shy and introverted, but I'm going to get on stage in front of, like, a group of people and tell jokes.
Yeah, and I've discussed this with my therapist, my counsellor over here. And I said, how can I be introvert? No, there's that test that tells you whether you're introverted, extroverted. I said, how can I be introverted, but I don't mind going up on stage, telling jokes? And my therapist said, well, it's because you only have to worry about you. It's like when I've been in musical bands, I used to hate performing. I love rehearsals and stuff, but performing, I just couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
But there was a reliance on other people. Whereas if I'm up there doing stand-up, it's only me I have to rely on.
Yeah.
And if I've prepared well enough, then that's fine. And I can come off stage, and I hate the people being nice about your set, which is lovely. People coming up saying how much they enjoyed it.
You're saying being nice just for the sake of being nice, just to kind of make you feel better, or?
No, yeah, people come up, especially after my first gig, I had a lot of people come up to me and they were like, oh, that's brilliant thing. And I come across as so antisocial. So I was like, oh, thanks. And, because I'm not the bombastic person I try to portray on stage, I am really, really shy.
And in the shy thing, it's someone very close to me. I mean, I tell everybody I'm shy. Like, I'm shy, I'm awkward, and I say certain things to her, and she's like, "You're not shy. You're saying this, this, and this to me." I'm like, but it's weird. Certain situations, I'm not shy. It's just weird. Like, I don't like big crowds. Like, I get very uncomfortable, and they could look at me, and I'd be like, I don't know what to say, and it's not that I don't want to talk. It's like sometimes I literally just don't know what to say. I'm so awkward.
And, it's like with work, when you go to a conference, I can't initiate conversations. I'm getting better at it, and I think stand-up has a bit to do with that. But I still wouldn't. I'll be on the outskirts of any sort of groups that are there.
Yeah.
Because when I'm on stage, I've got my jokes.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my armory. I've got my jokes. Off stage, I have to physically interact with people, and it's like I'm just no good at it.
Yeah, like on stage, you have, like you said, it's your armor, your shield, your protection, the stuff that you prepared, you wrote, and then you get into like a social situation, and you're like, I've got nothing. Like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, and then just kind of go back into my shell.
Well, yeah, especially with live, when we were doing live shows, I'd be in the green room and I'd be other comedians, and I would just not say a word. And not due to being rude or ignorant to people. It's just I physically don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And then, I've had people saying, well, just say something, hello thing. And it's like, that's all well and good. But the way my brain works, it's like, right, once you say hello, what else are you going to say then?
Yeah.
And yeah, not so much now. I'm a lot better, but I used to catastrophize everything. I could take the smallest incident, and at 4:00 in the morning, I had blown it up into, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose the house, my wife's going to leave me, I'm going to have nothing, I'm going to be alone. And things.
Yeah, kind of like the impending doom, like, oh, everything's going to come crashing down.
Yeah, and I think that's where part of it is, that I overthink anything I'm going to say. So by the time I've thought about what I'm going to say, that person has either filled in the gap or sort of spoken to someone else in the group. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's fine, especially with Zoom gigs now. I can do 2-3 gigs a week, and
Yeah, I overthink everything. I second guess everything. I second guess my second guesses.
100%.
So it's just how my brain works. It just immediately goes to, this person's not gonna like me. And it's
you can say the wrong thing.
Yeah, I deal with it. I wanted to ask you before we wrap this up, I wanted to say this has been a blast, and I greatly appreciate you doing this.
That's okay, no worries.
Do you have, looking at my calendar, this will be this will be online the 19th, so next Friday.
Oh, cool.
So, I looking at like the stats and everything, I think there may be a very, 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 very small percentage of listeners in your neck of the woods over on the other side of the ocean.
Cool.
But do you have anything you want to promote? Like, tell everybody the name, your podcast, all the information of that in case they want to listen to it.
Yeah, the podcast is Punchline Podcast. So it's anchor.fm/Punchline Podcast. On the 20th of March, we have another of our live shows. So if you go to the Facebook group, which is Punchline Podcast on Facebook, that's on the 20th at 8:30 UK time. So nice afternoon gig.
Yes, for all you people in America, 8:30 p.m. is 3:30 p.m. Yes, on the East Coast, anyways.
Yes, yeah. And we have a few American comedians doing the next show. Rachel Rothenberg, who did our first show and blew the crowd away, is going to do a longer set, and she is brilliant.
Awesome.
But, we try to get as interesting as comedians as we can, and it's all puns and one-liners, so...
I love it.
It's more jokes per minute than, I don't know, other shows.
Yeah.
No, that sounds really derogatory. I don't mean it like that. I'll overthink that now.
And I'm covering your social handle and in the outro, so people can follow you on Instagram because I'm imagining you'll be posting anything like that, flyers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'll regramming? Anything you put out as well for this, and
that works for me.
and I've got I got too many Twitter accounts. It's like I've got a personal one, a comedian one, and now the podcast one. So I'll put them out on all of them as well. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it was great meeting you, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
That's all right, no problem.
And I'll shoot you a message and tag you up and all that stuff when it's ready.
Cool.
All right,
and hopefully, we'll all be unlocked. What's it called? Unlocked down.
Yeah, we'll eventually get through this.
Yeah, and comedy will get you through. That's
And thanks again, man. It was great meeting you.
No problem.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you. Cheers, Larry.
All right, cheers. That concludes this week's episode of Life's a Bit with Larry Mullins. Please follow the podcast on all social media at Life's a Bit Pod. If you are listening, please follow, rate, subscribe, and write a review. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. While you're at it, please follow Kyle on Instagram at Kyle Davies Comedian. Thank you all so much for the support, and I'll catch you on the next one.